Welcome. Well, you're at home with Jim and Joy, and we're delighted that you have welcomed us into your home. You know, you are an important part of our EWTN family. And today we are taking questions on this Question Asking Monday. So we want you, all you need to do, today we're taking all the questions, so give us a jingle at 1-800-221-9460. If you're calling and you're outside North America, you can reach us at area code 205-271-2980. You can email your question to us, jimandjoy@ewtn.com, or you can reach us on Twitter, twitter.com/JimandJoyPinto. We would love to hear from you because today it's going to be a different show. Yeah. So in a new season, on Monday, we're going to just talk. We're going to have a conversation. We're going to talk to you, and hopefully we're going to hear from you and have a beautiful dialogue of our show.
So when Joy and I begin sharing at the outset of the show, we might hit on a particular theme. Like today we were just thinking about our own development regarding what marriage is and what marriage does. So maybe you have questions, comments about our own journey in terms of our marriage and family, or maybe there's a comment that you would like to share about your own life and marriage and family, or maybe it's not about this theme. So anything on life, marriage, family in a very broad way, or discipleship or conversion. But Joy, I was just thinking, about our own evolution regarding marriage, and there's always more. But I met you, you were 14 years old, and I was a teenager myself, and there's a real issue of love at first sight. Is there love at first sight or whatever? It was for me. Everything we're going to share during this time, I mean, there's positives, there's negatives. I mean, if you're a mom and a dad and your daughter is seeing a young man, she's 14 years old, there's a lot of questions that pop up already. I get all that. But somehow, some way, God really called us to be together. And shortly after we met, we began speaking about marriage. And again, 14 years old, 15 years old, you're speaking about marriage. Really? Just play football. Just play, do normal things. And we did those normal things. But just thinking again about marriage, and that at least that was in us. It was like, if we're together, this thing must lead to what our parents did.
Right.
And we had great parents that were married, that were faithful, working class people. They didn't teach a lot about marriage. I mean, they just got married and they stayed married, and your family had 8 children, we had 4 children. And it was that kind of thing. And so we were always dreaming.
Right.
And you said, when will we get married? And I said, well, maybe in 6 years. Mm-hmm. And then 6 years went by. And you said one night to me, hey, 6 years just went by. What are we doing?
Right.
And so we thought about it. We named our children.
Right.
Now, they're not the names that they have. We talk about Ski, Bree, T. We're going to have children. But the point is that marriage is about a couple being together. We had a sense, even though nobody taught us about the keys to marriage, about permanence.
Right.
I mean, we got the idea. When we get married, we're going to be together. We're going to have children, Lord willing. And I want to facilitate God's plan for your life.
Yeah, I think the best thing that we had going for us first was Jesus. And the second thing was the great example that our family set for us. It wasn't just our parents, but it was our brothers and sisters. They all made marriage work. They made marriage look attractive, so that when you were in love, you were like, that's where I want to go. That's what I want to be. That's, I want that. I want marriage. I want permanence. I want family. For me, I had 7 brothers and sisters. I was looking to get out of that house. It was kind of like, okay, this is good, and so everybody made it look attractive. And it wasn't uncommon in our day back in the 70s, which kind of makes you think like that really wasn't a long time ago, but it was. That's what people did. People got married young. Now it's a different day, and people are getting married in their 30s. And but people got married. I was 19, and you were 21. You just graduated college, and it was time for us.
You mentioned we had Jesus. We were both baptized, but we weren't very intentional about Christ in those early days. Then we had a radical conversion. We were married in a different tradition other than Catholicism. We could share a lot about that if you have questions about that. And then I came back home to the Catholic faith. You reverted into the Catholic Church. And the issue that I wanted to share about is, it was different when we were young kids thinking about marriage.
Oh, yeah.
And then getting married in the Protestant church in the various richness that was there, but limited nature of that, and then coming into Catholicism. So that's kind of the theme for the day. How have you evolved in your understanding of marriage and the family? What difference does it make? Some people say it's no difference if you get married in this church or that church or no church at all. Well, maybe there's some truth to that, but not necessarily. So we'd like to hear your questions, your comments. You can ask us just about our own journey, about life, marriage, and the family. So there's plenty more to come today. You're at home with Jim and Joy, really. If you came into our home, you had a couple of minutes to share with us, what would you ask? What would your comment be? We'll be right back. Don't go away. Plenty more to come.
Welcome back on this fabulous Talking Monday. Remember that you make our show today. So if you have a question, just give us a jingle at 1-800-221-9460. If you're calling and you're outside North America, you can reach us at area code 205-271-2980. You can always send us an email with your question to jimandjoy@ewtn.com. You can reach us on Twitter, twitter.com/Jim and Joy Pinto.
You just think, I mean, you could say, I'm going to pick up the phone, I'm going to call Jim and Joy.
There you go.
Or you can tweet us, or you can do an email. If we don't get to your call or we don't get to your comments, we can save them and use them on another show on Monday. So it's important that you reach us.
Well, let's talk about our marriage prep. How did that happen for us in the Protestant church?
Gosh,
We got married. You asked me to marry you. First, you asked my father if you could have my hand in marriage.
Yeah.
And my father being
A comedian?
construction,
Yeah.
he wasn't a comedian.
He said, you can have the whole thing. You're like, you can have the whole person. That isn't-
He said, you know, as a father, you know, men are looking to make sure that I'm going to be protected and that you are going to be able to provide for me. And so my father said, well, what are you going to do? You just graduated college and now you're going off to seminary. We were going off to Episcopal
Protestant seminary, yeah.
And so I said, well, Daddy's going to go to school and I'm gonna work. And, you know, which was like, my father had no frame. It was a different time. Women didn't work. My mom was a stay-at-home mom, and he was kind of like, no, you get married, you have babies, you stay home, you raise the
Well, your
babies.
father was good because he raised an issue. He said to you, do you want this?
Right, he said to me
I
clearly.
mean, this is a guy who's going to school. You're going to be a primary. Do you want this? I
Yeah.
think that was really good
And
that he did that.
He said, is this what you want? And I said, oh, yes, Daddy, I love him, you know. And so he was like, okay, so this is what you're signing up for.
Yeah.
But we knew that going in. We knew going in, we were committed to the Lord. We both had a radical conversion. Our lives were not our own. We were bought with a great price, and to Jesus did we belong. We signed up for that. We were about dying to ourselves and living for the Lord, no matter what it was. It was kind of like, you know, Jesus said, come and follow me, and we left father, mother, sister, brother, and went and followed Jesus.
Well, when we were married, again, this is why I'm saying some of the things we share are good. Maybe they're not good, and you learn. I wouldn't want this for my kids. But when we got married, all of our belongings were in 2 cars.
Right.
We didn't have belongings to put in a truck. And we had a Pinto car that was very cool.
Very cool.
That I was a Pinto in a Pinto.
You had a red flaming Pinto, and I had a yellow Volkswagen.
And we had
Isn't
all
that
of our
appropriate?
belongings in 2 cars.
Right.
And we went and we got the place where we were going to stay. And the first few nights, we slept on the floor.
Right. We had
People are going to say, I don't know if I want to watch Jim and Joy anymore.
when we got married, we had $1,500 to our name from our wedding.
Yeah.
You know, that was all that we had. But we knew we were to be married. You were going to go to school full time. I was working. My company had transferred me from New Jersey to Pittsburgh, so I had a job.
We did get a bed and we got furniture eventually.
We did.
And your parents came out right away.
The
Like,
next
My
week.
daughter slept on the floor. That's not happening.
Yeah.
And so they came out. But I guess the point with that is that it wasn't the material things. I love you.
Right.
I like you. I love you. We're going to be together. The stuff that we need more stuff than we got, obviously. And I want to provide all that I can. Can't provide a lot now. But the riches, the wealth was that we are together. We like each other. And that's important, to like the person you're going to marry to something. I mean, you got to love no matter what. Some days you might not like one another. but I'm glad that we like each other as well as love one another. And we were in this, as the vow said, for better or worse, for richer or poorer, in sickness and in health, to love and to cherish till we're parted by death. This is my solemn vow.
Right.
And we take those vows every year, sometimes a number of times out of the year. But you know, in the evolution of marriage, Joy, from where we were as kids, and we really weren't all that committed to the Lord, there were mistakes, good things, sins, and so on. Protestant church was really a great experience to be married, you know, in that church. But it was limited too. It wasn't until we came into the Catholic faith and really understand the power of a sacrament that we really had all that we needed in the sacrament of marriage, that God's power was there. Whether we felt that or not, we can call upon that power, that the sacrament of confession,
Yes.
which was not with us really in the Protestant tradition, you know, to stand online, to wait to confess your sins so that it's not all about, you know, you did this wrong, I did this, or you're accusing me. It's kind of like we're both online because it's about God
Right.
examining us and forgiving us with his divine mercy and his love. There's somebody in between us. In the Catholic faith, there's always that Jesus is between us. And that makes all the difference, and the great broad teaching of the church regarding the faith.
And I think in our Protestant training, what we got are the Episcopal priest that married us told us to pray every day. And we did. We took that seriously. Yeah. So every day.
And he said make a budget, which we weren't very good at.
We weren't good at the budget. We didn't have any money to budget, but we did our best.
It wasn't much. We couldn't even budget $1,500.
But what we did do was we made a commitment before God Almighty, and we decided that together we were going to pray every day because we were dependent upon God. Now, sometimes we can get degrees, we can have careers, we can have houses and cars, and we can have stuff, and we don't depend on God. We were depending on God for strength. I needed courage. I just left my father, mother, sister, brother. I was scared. I lived in a new state. And everything was new. But all I kept saying was, I love Jesus and I love Jimmy. And that's all that I knew. That was my story, and I was sticking to it.
Amen.
Well, we have a call from Rosemary. Rosemary, what is your question or your comment today?
Hi. It was 71 years ago when he put the ring on my finger, and he said, I'll get married in your church, but my children will never be Catholic. And he left me, and I sat on my mother's steps and cried and prayed the rosary. I'm named after the rosary. And then the babies, we had a beautiful wedding in a Catholic church, and the babies kept coming. I had them baptized alone. I never talked about my faith. The children marched to my tune, and 11 years later, he was frying hamburgers, and he said, oh, I forgot to tell you, I'm taking instruction. And today, we're on year 70 to be married, and they had 15 babies, 143 grandkids.
Oh, my goodness.
And 161 in our family, and there's only one son-in-law dragging his feet. Like, for instance, last Christmas, there were 86 in my living room, kitchen. We've always been together. And my husband said, time to pray. So it was time to pray the chaplet, the rosary, and it's truly an unbelievable story.
Wow,
by the way, he was only 16 when he put that ring on my finger.
Rosemary, make sure you give to somebody that's talking with you your phone number, because we want to know you. And I don't know if you do email or not. We would just like to get to know you. You've enriched our lives and so many people by, did she say 71 years?
Yes, so beautiful. And so he's a convert. He comes in, she has all these children, all these grandchildren, all these great grandchildren. That's unbelievable.
But, he wasn't there. So they're married, and they're not really equally yoked, but they're married. Valid marriage. They know what they're giving themselves to, because marriage is a natural law thing as well as a church thing and divine revelation thing. And then 11 years in, he converts in. And so there's so many dimensions there in Rosemary's story. We just rejoice over 71 years. I can't even remember the number of children and grandchildren, and it goes on and on. But there's also the story in there is that it wasn't always this way.
Right.
We weren't equally yoked, and it was 11 years until then. And that's what we're speaking about today as well. It's that we evolve,
Right.
or we intentionally commit, or we learn more. We were blind, or maybe we were rebellious. And even where we are now, it's kind of like, Lord, what are we not seeing in terms of the sanctity and the beauty and the wonder of marriage and our being in relationship with the most holy Trinity, and you living that out in and through us, and Christ's love for the church being expressed in marriage. Lord, I'm trying to do that. Let me do it more. And what power can we get from the sacraments? And what do we see, in priests and in sisters who consecrated themselves to the Lord and have foregone marriage, have sacrificed marriage? And we know the scandals and all this, but there's so many priests, so many sisters that are so dedicated. What does that tell us about marriage? We saw we went to a wedding over the weekend.
Yes.
Great couple in Abby and Paul. And there was a part of that wedding ceremony where they were on their knees, and there was a censer in front of them, and the Mass was taking place, and Father was celebrating the Mass, and the incense was going up. So you had the couple, you had the censer doing the incense, you had Father looking this way, and then you had the crucifix behind them. And this is how we've grown because of Catholicism. And I'm looking at them saying, they're about marriage, Christ's love for the church, hopefully children, the Trinity. And then Father's up there, holy young priest, Father Altanji. He's celebrating. He doesn't have a wife. He's sacrificed that. He's married. This is where they're going.
Right.
When they die, this couple, they're wedded to the Lord. Father Altanji showing us that. And then Christ, the crucifix, is there saying, this is how I love the bride. When I look at the crucifix of Christ, I say, Jimmy, this is how a groom is supposed to love his wife. He's there. And then the real presence of Jesus. He's calling, for the representation, the representing of Christ in the Holy Eucharist. How great is our Catholic faith?
It is so great.
How great is our Catholic faith?
But the beautiful thing that we all have to get, and even going to a wedding and being in the pews, and what happens? There's the altar. And this couple presents themselves before the altar because they're about to die. They don't know that yet. They're in full love and everything is a great feeling and everything. But the point is that every day in our marriage, we have to die to ourselves. And there's the altar and there's the great sacrifice. It's not about what you're going to do for me. And even Rosemary's fabulous witness of love that she had before her husband, and being so open to life and having the children and having them baptized and raising them in the church and doing all that she did in prayer, that her husband was like, what a witness. He was like, I want to become like that. I need that too. I need those graces. I need that love.
And sometimes it doesn't turn out like that.
Right.
And that's the other thing, that you've made your vows and you are in this and you work with what you have. She may have worked all those years with a good man who was committed to marriage and for some reason didn't have the enlightenment or whatever. That has to go in the mystery box. It's just a mystery. And then there's failings in marriage and abandonment and disloyalty, and it's all that stuff that's in there. But it's worth it to throw your lot into marriage, no matter what these outcomes are, and just to trust that the Lord will write straight our crooked lines. Joy, we have another call?
We have a call from Margaret, and she has some advice for her daughter getting married. Margaret, welcome to At Home with Jim or Joy.
Hello?
Yes, you're on. Go right ahead.
Okay, my name is Margaret, and I'm calling because next week my daughter Ashley is going to get married, and she's 25, and her future husband Matthew is going to be 27. And what's the best advice you can give to your daughter from mother and father in her during speech on her wedding day?
Okay.
Well, I'm going to tell you some advice I got. It was the great advice because I want to be the best mother and the best mother-in-law on the planet.
You're going to share this?
I'm going to share this.
Oh boy, okay.
This is my story. This is true. I asked my sister-in-law, who had 4 sons.
Camille. Yeah.
Camille. I said, Camille, I need some advice. I don't know how to do this. My son was getting married. How was I going to let go of my son? And she said, I'm going to tell you what my mother-in-law told me. Now, you're looking for advice. I'm going to tell you. She said, mind your own business. Right? It's so hard. We want to give advice. You know what? You poured your life into your daughter for 25 years. She knows your advice. She knows what you're thinking. She knows what you're feeling. She knows what you believe. She knows your worldviews. She knows your faith. And then sometimes as a mother and a mother-in-law, you have to mind your own business. You have to like, they're going to go off. But you got to let it go. You spoke to the father.
No, I think that's a good piece of advice for her, for all in-laws. But I mean, if you're going to just be saying something, anything good you see in that spouse, as well as her, you say that. This is what we've seen. We've lived with you, and this is what we see in you. And to him, you share that what you see. And, they're both stand-in for Christ. I mean, that's what I would say to them, that, you're wedded to one another, but you're just standing for Jesus Christ. And one day you will present each other back to the Lord, and the Lord will know how you did by how the other one looks. You might be 90 years old, 100 years old. I'm not talking about physical looks. I'm talking about the spiritual look. And so you are a stand-in for Christ, and one day you will present my daughter back to the Lord. And daughter, you will present him back to the Lord, because Jesus is the ultimate groom. You're just merely stand-ins. So give your life in totality. Look upon the cross. Look upon the sacrifice of Christ, because this is love. And it is more blessed to give than it is to receive. This is all about giving your life. And in giving your life, as St. Francis tells us, you will find your life. But if marriage is about what's going to happen for you, you're going to lose your life. You could lose this marriage. It's all about giving your life for another. And in this sacrament, you will have everything you need. Don't believe the lies of the devil and the way you feel and everything else. You have in the power of this sacrament everything you need to prevail. Christ wants you to prevail. We want you to prevail. And we will support you in this. We are always here for you. So something along those lines, I would say.
2 other good tips I always say, and when we did marriage prep and everything. 2 things will destroy a marriage: selfishness and prayerlessness. So you have to get rid of self, and you have to be committed to pray. So you might want to say to your daughter, I encourage you and your new husband to pray every single day. And if they're not comfortable with praying together, then maybe they could say a Hail Mary together, or they could just bless each other as they go out the door. But to commit spiritually, because that's what's going to get them through that journey of love for a lifetime.
And you might say, Lord willing, I look forward to grandkids.
Right.
I would say that.
You did say that. You have 16 of them.
So it's been great to share with you all today. Thanks for the phone calls. I'm sure that emails are coming in and your tweets are coming in. We'll look at those as best we can and maybe use them in the next show. We're going to take a break, but we'll be right back. There's plenty more to come. Thanks for coming into our home. We'll be right back. Well, welcome back. One of the things that there's a lot of talk about these days, of course, is the scandal within the church and possible cover-ups, and just how do we find our way through all of this, and to do that in faith, in hope, and in love. I want to remind you that there's a holy hour for justice and healing every Sunday in Irondale, 6 p.m. Eastern Time, 5 p.m. Central Time, a whole hour set apart to intercede, to pray for healing, especially for the victims, to pray for hope, to pray for those who've perpetrated evils, for our church to be renewed, for the smoke of Satan to get out of the church, and for us to be renewed and for us to be healed and made whole and well. And so we look forward to hearing from you about things you want to speak about. Maybe we could speak more about this in the next show, because there's great things happening in our own parish that I'd like to speak about. We have a 24-hour Eucharistic adoration coming up, 24 hours of prayer and Eucharistic adoration for healing and hope regarding renewal in the church and against this scandal that has taken place. So all that's happening, we'd like to hear from you of how you're managing all this, how you're completely trusting in the Lord.
Well, we hope you enjoyed today's show. Be sure to join us on Wednesday when our guest will be Dr. Brian Thatcher. Now, he's going to be discussing the Eucharistic Apostles of Divine Mercy. It is going to be a great show. Remember, you are always at home with Jim and Joy. You are an important part of our EWTN family. Bye now, and God bless you.